Welcome everyone to this webinar on the legal requirements and benefits of electronic prescribing. I'm one of your hosts today, Neel Kothari, the CEO of PracticeWeb, and I'm really pleased to have with me another member of our team, Geraldine Guzman, with us, and she's going to give a great demo later on, as well as the team from DoseSpot, including Paul Harvey, who's going to be presenting. So I'm very happy to present this webinar because we have several states now that are legally requiring e-prescribing, and we want to make it as easy and painless for your practice as possible to comply with that law in your state, as well as we really see this as not just a necessary evil by any means, but really a huge opportunity to kind of optimize and really improve this key part of your practice, which is prescribing. How to improve that prescribing workflow, how to really provide a better experience even for the patients that come to your practice. So we're going to cover all those great tidbits today. So very excited to share this information with you. So let's get started here. We are your hosts, as I said. My name is Neel Kothari, the CEO of PracticeWeb. I have Geraldine Guzman with me as well from PracticeWeb. She's our ERX support specialist. And then Paul Harvey, who's the Director of Technical Support at DoseSpot. DoseSpot is a great partner of ours in helping us provide this service through PracticeWeb and make it seamless and integrated, and they just are an excellent partner of ours. So happy to have them on this webinar. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to our PracticeWeb channel, and get the notifications as well. Even if you're on live right now, this is a great reminder that we have excellent content like this every week, new videos, new tutorials, new webinars. So make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, which is Practice-Web Dental, and you can easily find us on YouTube. So with that, I want to reintroduce ourselves. Of course, a lot of you know more than enough about us, being longtime clients of PracticeWeb, but we are the industry leading practice management software. We've been serving the dental community since 1988, and been through a lot of different situations, and e-prescribing is just yet another evolution in the solutions that we're providing. We've helped solo to multi-location practices and everyone from general practitioners to specialists thrive, and that's really our mission, to help you thrive. And finally, I do want to mention that we provide an all-in-one practice management solution. If you need it, we got it. Just find out more. You may not know what we offer, everything we offer. So always go to our website and call us and contact us, and we'll let you know what we're offering. But yeah, we're very highly rated because of our emphasis on service and figuring out ways to help you thrive. Now, what I mentioned about the all-in-one solution, we have a full suite of services along with the core solution, which is your appointment scheduling, charting, billing. But along with that, we make sure that we're a one-stop shop. Today, we are going to be focusing on e-prescribing, which is a key component of that all-in-one solution. So that's a quick introduction of PracticeWeb. You'll hear more from me in a little bit, but I'm going to turn it over now to Paul Harvey at DoseSpot, and he will get into more about who is DoseSpot and what are some of the great things about e-prescribing, along with the fact that it'll really help you comply with those e-prescribing laws in your state. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Paul.
No problem. Thank you very much, Neel.
Sure.
So basically, my name is Paul Harvey. I'm the Director of Support here at DoseSpot, and just tell you a little bit about who DoseSpot is and why we want to help you out with your prescribing needs. First of all, we are the industry leader of integrated e-prescribing since 2009. We're serving all types of dentists, solo practitioners, large DSOs. We work with a very wide variety of dentists and dental providers using e-prescribing, and we specialize in integrated e-prescribing. So we integrate with different patient management systems to make a single solution for your patient and prescription needs. Just to kind of give you a little bit of idea of what we do, we have 150,000 registered users. So those are people that are actively logging in using DoseSpot to add, send, and manage their prescriptions for their patients. We send roughly 2 million prescriptions each month, so that is no small amount being sent over the web to various pharmacies and locations throughout the United States. And our biggest selling point really when it comes to us versus other e-prescribing solutions is our response times. We have about 250 millisecond average response time. So that means when you send something to us, we will be able to update our system and send you back a response in roughly about a second. Compared to some of our closest competitors, we've seen anywhere from 4 to 5 seconds for them. So we definitely see this as a top selling point for us. We want you to spend time with your patients, not with an e-prescribing program. So I'll get a little bit into some of the details here on how we can help boost your productivity, and most importantly, what we all care about, the patients. So first is ease of use. Number one, as soon as you load in DoseSpot and you have your patient there and you go to make that prescription, you can actually use a 3-letter search. So by the time you start typing out your medication that you want to send, the first 3 letters are going to start to populate all the various options that may be under that type of medication. Add a few more letters and it's immediately right there at your fingertips. Let's say you want to make it even easier for yourself. We know, with dental practices and a lot of different use cases, you may have a set of medications that you constantly send out for your patients. So we actually have the ability for you to create both personal and clinic favorites. So personal favorites would be things that you would favorite yourself. A medication, you can actually set the dosage, the amount dispensed, and pharmacy notes as a personal favorite. So you can immediately just select that from the list. It populates. All you got to do is hit send. And then we also have clinical favorites. So let's say you have multiple providers in your location who need to send out the same medications over and over again. You can actually create a clinical list for your office so that everyone can select from the same list. Nice and easy. And then we have a notification system that will tell you about refills, cancel requests, as well as an updated view that'll tell you which medications are active, which are inactive, and keep a running history of that patient's medication list that has been sent through DoseSpot. Some of the prescribing benefits that come with DoseSpot is, first, we have both drug-to-drug and drug-to-allergy conflict notifications. So if, let's say, your patient has a medication that they've been prescribed and you go to prescribe another medication that may have a conflict with that other active medication that could come up, we will actually show you that within the prescribing app before you send that medication. So you are already aware that there could be a conflict and you can address that with the patient on what the best way to help them are. Additionally, you can actually add medication allergies to DoseSpot to keep a running tally of any potential allergies the patient has, which again, if there's a conflict with the medication you're prescribing, will display right there in the application. All of our medication is standardized based on the Lexicon drug prescription drug list. So that's verified and confirmed through NDC. So all of the medications that we present to you are fully authorized to be sent and prescribed in the United States. No questions on that. You also have the ability to respond in-app to refills and cancellations. And we actually have full dental-specific drug monographs. So that means that when you click on that medication, we will actually present the screen that shows you all of the different details of that medication, including ingredients, how it's mostly applicable and used, as well as dental-specific ones that may be specific to your particular needs. The next thing I'll talk about, and I know that this is one I'm sure we'll have questions on, is the electronic prescription of controlled substances. So this is basically the ability to send controlled medications, prescriptions for your patients. Because we're doing this electronically, traditionally you would either print or write your prescription and you'd have to sign it out. In lieu of that, in electronic prescribing, you actually have to do what's called a two-factor authentication. First, you would put in a 4-digit PIN code that you've set yourself, and then you would send a generated code from a two-factor authentication service. We use Duo to present that for you. So basically what that means is when you send that prescription for a controlled substance, not only do we send your MPI and DEA numbers, so the pharmacy gets those, we're also doing a two-factor authentication, which meets all of the DEA regulations for electronically sending prescriptions. And then the final thing I'm going to talk about, and this is definitely coming up more and more, we're seeing this more and more across the board with prescriptions, is PDMP NARC scores, basically opioid referencing to make sure the patients, if there's a concern that they may have either previous or current concerns around opioid medications being distributed, we do have the ability to implement a PDMP report. So basically when you load up that patient, right in the center of the screen will be a new dialog box that shows their NARC scores, which shows, basically what is their score for the potential for opioid use or abuse. There is a link to a full PDMP report, which means that if any reports of opioid concern have been made, they will appear on that report. And we do have multi-state reporting. So it's not just the state that you're prescribing or you're currently located in. We also are able to set up reporting for any neighboring states to make sure that, again, if you send a prescription somewhere else, or if the patient has recently moved from another state, you're actually able to see that as well. And that's what DoseSpot can do for you. Again, we try to make the program as super easy as possible. We try to give you the tools and options to easily use and send prescriptions for your patients, and most importantly, we try to make sure that your patients are safe when they get those prescriptions. So I appreciate your time. If you do have any questions, feel free to send them along. But for now, I'm going to send it back over to you, Neel.
So yeah, I think that was a great overview of the aspects of DoseSpot that led us to work with you as a partner and integrate in PracticeWeb. Not only, again, complying with the laws that we're going to talk about in a minute, but also improving your clinical decision making. You have a very fast response time and process to send the prescription to the pharmacy. It makes it much easier for the patient as well, prevents fraud, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on. So it's really great. And what I want to focus on here momentarily is more on why the integration matters than just having a standalone ePrescribing service. So what are the benefits of that? We have good experience working with several practices, and from that we've had statistics that kind of show why the integration matters. So number one is the ease of use that Paul mentioned. 70% of clinicians say it's easier to write a new prescription when you're using an integrated service, because again, and Geraldine's going to demo this, you simply click on a button within the dental chart that you're already in within PracticeWeb, and the favorites are there. It's a very quick process, and you click submit. So 70% it says it's much easier to use an integrated service to write prescriptions. Refills, of course, are going to be easier because they're stored in every patient that you have in PracticeWeb. So you can go back and do a quick refill. And another great thing we're going to show in a moment is you can do this even from your phone. So if you're at home, if the clinician's at home needs to do a refill on an emergency basis, they can do that. They get let's say you get an after-hours phone call from a patient, from your answering service, you can do a refill right then and there. So 80% feel that it's easier to do refills. And then all of your team in the office, the support staff, they can help you manage those refills easier as well. So these are some high-level statistics and the kind of feedback we've seen. But going into standalone, why is it cumbersome? So you could have a separate portal and a separate software that does this for ePrescribing. But then what you're doing is you're managing, and I know all of you love to have all the 6 different softwares that you have to use to run your practice, and that's why we try to bring it all into one place. But this is part of that. So you don't want to manage multiple logins and software. They're not working with each other, right? So you're having to manage basically 2 different databases of patients in these multiple softwares. You're having to enter things manually. It's not feeding right from the practice management software. You have to manually put it back into your practice web chart if you want to keep a record of that prescription. And then you have, information is kind of dispersed in different places, and then you have communication challenges between the systems. So this is where standalone becomes a problem. Even if something is, although we have an extremely low cost for this service, but even if something is lower cost, you have to keep these things in mind, the headache that you're taking on with that potentially lower cost. So integrated is better. Again, the opposite. So essentially single sign-on. So you sign on to Practice Web, you're already now signed on to your ERX, you don't have to do it again. It automatically syncs the data both ways. So the ERX software knows what patient you're working on, what they've done, and then vice versa, whatever you've prescribed from ERX will show back into your Practice Web chart. The ERX, like I just said, ERX records are in the chart, and everything is streamlined. So it's easy for even your support team to go in and do things because it's all within Practice Web. So this is why integrated ERX is better. Now, with the other point, which we'll get into more, is you can prescribe on the mobile too now with the dentist portal. So Geraldine's going to show a great scenario, a very, very interesting one later on about this, but this is another reason why it's good to have that integration. You can use the dentist portal side by side with it. So with that being said, we've talked about the benefits, the integration. Now let's get to the, those are all the, I would call them the carrots, and now here's the stick. So states have determined, going back a few years now, that as Paul mentioned about PDMP scores and the opioid issue, as everyone knows, there's an opioid crisis in this country, and so states have been taking action, very strict action, to require providers to help sort of prevent and lessen that crisis and prevent fraud when it comes to prescribing. So it's good for you. It keeps you sort of away from these thorny situations where there might be fraud occurring, and it also helps the overall crisis happening in this country. Excuse me. So with ERX legal requirements, I wanted to briefly talk about the landscape here. We are going to send out a resource that goes through all of this, so don't feel like you have to write everything down or make sure you get your state. It'll be in a resource in an email that we send out very soon, probably today or tomorrow. But this is going to be the landscape right now. So there's a variety, right? So some states are already prescribing it or already requiring e-prescribing for all substances, all prescriptions. Some are just for controlled substances. Some are coming online soon, and some don't have any pending legislation. So the ones with current ERX requirements are listed here and in the next slide. These are states where if you're in one of these states, you should get e-prescribing based on the requirements you see here, because you're currently out of compliance and subject to potential audit if you're not complying. So we want to be complying here in these states. This is showing from Arkansas through New Jersey. And as I said, some of them are controlled substances, some of them are all prescriptions. So you have to kind of look into this. And again, this is not us providing legal advice to you. You certainly want to confirm all this information independently and talk to an attorney if you want to do that, but certainly look at the requirements of your state. Another set of states here with current requirements from New Mexico to Wyoming are there, and these have been again in just the last few years where this started to become required. So a lot of our clients are using e-prescribing partly for this reason. And then we have some coming online very soon. California is probably the biggest state. You also have Arizona, in Indiana, Utah, Maryland, Washington. So these are coming online very soon here, just next year. So we have a few months. That's why we're doing a push right now to make sure that you're in compliance before this legal requirement is in effect. So that is the legal aspect of this. Now another piece, which is kind of legal, is regarding hygienist prescribing authority. So we have the ability in DoseSpot to give prescribing ability to hygienists, but of course you want to make sure that you're complying with your state law in relation to that. So some states have allowed hygienists to prescribe certain types of medication, and the list that we found is here. So there's 7 states. There could be more. These are the ones that we found from a pretty trustworthy authority the American Dental, I think, Hygienist Association. But these are the ones that have some level of prescribing authority, either with direct access supervision, which means that hygienists can kind of just do it without any dentist supervision, and then some states require general supervision from a dentist before they prescribe on their own. Now, what I want to get into next is the identity proofing that Paul talked about and why this is important. So this is a requirement of the law as well as DoseSpot and PracticeWeb to do authentication every time you submit a prescription. This is also, there's a process called identity proofing, which is done when you first get set up with this service. We take care of that for you. It's really painless. It takes just like an hour or two, but that's at the very beginning. But this is a on prescription basis. So every time you submit. Now, what is a requirement? So the law says, the federal law says the identity proofing process and use of identity proofing measures are required to electronically prescribe. So essentially you need to have this, and luckily DoseSpot and PracticeWeb offer this. So how does it work? Very briefly, you have two options. When you have DoseSpot in PracticeWeb, you can either have a hard token that generates a code every few minutes. It changes, and so that hard token will be what you use to type in to submit the prescription, or you can have an app on your phone and that'll generate the code for you. So now the one thing here is it's either or. You can't have both, and the whole point of that is to make sure that you're not, let's say the hard token gets in someone else's hands and you also have the Duo app and you're using that. So you want to make sure that it's only one at a time and protect yourself from fraud. So this gives you peace of mind. You make sure that no one in your office, although we trust our teams, we want to make sure there's no fraud occurring. And this will give you peace of mind that you have this second level of authentication and identity proofing. So with that, I wanted to get to the heart of this, and let's see this in action. We have some great demo prepared for you. So I'm going to turn it over to Geraldine here.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction, Neel. And you should see my screen now. It's the Let's See PracticeWeb and DoseSpot ePrescribing in action. And again, my name is Geraldine. I'm one of the ERX specialists. I see that we do have some clients who actively use DoseSpot who joined us today. So hello, this is what I look like. And so essentially I'm going to just take you through how PracticeWeb works with the DoseSpot ePrescribing integration. And we're going to go ahead and discuss two medication types here. So ERX, that's a term that we use for basic or non-narcotic type of prescriptions, such as, pre-meds, ibuprofen, things that are not controlled. And like Paul mentioned earlier, EPCS, which stands for electronic prescribing of controlled substance. So the key term there is the CS portion of that, and that is controlled. And we'll go over the two-factor authentication and how that works again with the software in itself. Okay, there are 4 steps to remember. I call the LSCL steps to use this feature in PracticeWeb. And so I'll go over this very briefly. The first is to log in as the appropriate user. So access to DoseSpot features is actually dictated by what PracticeWeb users actually logged in. And so that is a really crucial part of it. Then you would select your patient. Then you would check that the patient information is complete. And then you would then launch DoseSpot. And DoseSpot, as you will soon see, and probably have already if you have that service with us, it's very, very easy and user-friendly. So that is definitely a sticking point here. So this first scenario I'm going to take you through is when a doctor does the preparation as well as transmission of a pre-medication. So let me preface this by saying before leaving, a patient needs a pre-medication, and this is to prepare for his scheduled scaling and root cleaning with the hygienist, which, as we know in dentistry, will release bacteremia, and we want to make sure that that doesn't cause any other issues. All right, so you should now see my screen here, and this is PracticeWeb's login window. So again, LSCL, login, select, check, and launch. So I'm logging in as Paul Doctor here. And I'm going to select my patient. And so if you're already using PracticeWeb, you know that the schedule comes up foremost. And what I'll do is select my patient here at 9 a.m., which is Cameron patient. And then we're going to go to the check portion, and that's in the family module. And so there are 4 key things to note. You do need to have a first name and last name, properly formatted, no extra spaces. You also need a birth date in place, as well as a complete address, again, properly formatted, and a phone number on file. And so the logic behind that is because at the pharmacy tech or whoever is giving that to you will actually do a verbal confirmation of that information when you pick up that prescription. All right. And so the last portion of it, which is launch, happens in the chart module. So I'm going here under the chart module, and if you look towards the top left, we do have the ERX button here, and I'm going to go ahead and launch DoseSpot now. All right, you should see this, and again, this is for our selected patient, Cameron patient here. And so I do want to just kind of briefly orient you with this particular window. So if you use this plus sign here towards the middle of your screen, it does allow you to expand and see the details that came over from Practice Web into the DoseSpot user interface. If you have a patient that is younger than 18, then you can put in the height and weight. Here, as you can see, you can also add in a drug allergy. So I'll take you very quickly through that. So let's say that they actually have penicillin as a drug allergy. So we can go ahead and put in, let's actually say cephalosporin. So cephalosporins, we're going to go ahead and plug that in here. It is an active status, and the reaction type is allergy. And notice how that very quickly populated. I'm going to go ahead and click on Save here. And that now is added to our patient file. I'm going to go ahead and close, and I'm going to bring this up here so you can see now that we have a cephalosporin allergy here. Similarly, you can at this point add in a preferred pharmacy. So I'm going through that same step. I'm going to go ahead and click on that. If you were looking for a controlled substance pharmacy, this EPCS checkbox would be helpful for that purpose. So the more vague, the better, I find. And what I'm going to do is just enter in my test one here. And then I'm going to just put in a name and the zip code, which tends to have the best success for me. And then I'm going to click on search. And so what that does is it allows us to then search for that. I'm going to go ahead and click proceed here. So let me type that in again. 1 and 2933. All right, and search. And this is the pharmacy of choice. You can input more pharmacies or see more results, granted that this is a little bit more vague. But in any way, if you hover over that, it will turn orange, and you can then click on it to select that pharmacy for that patient. And it will populate that here on the left-hand side, and we can then click close. All right, so again, a summary. After we did the LSCL steps, you want to make sure that you have ascertained the drug allergies, and you've also put in a preferred pharmacy for this patient. Okay. And so what I want to do is also expand on the add patient reported. So that's here towards the far right kind of middle. So there is a two-way sync between Practice Web and DoseSpot. And so whatever medications you indicated in in Practice Web will actually carry over, and that's what you see here under the active medications. So Cameron is actually a diabetic. He's taking metformin, and he's actively prescribed codeine. And so all of those things came over from Practice Web. And if you needed to add any more, that's what the Add Patient Reported is useful for. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Patient Reported here. And again, it's 3 characters that you're going to be plugging in. So let's say this person is taking cetirizine, which is like Zyrtec. It's the common name for Zyrtec. And I'm just going to click on that result, the tablet. And then we can click on Save to save that to his file. And so that is now added to our active medication section, as you see. And let me just very briefly indicate that if you discontinue a medication, indicate that as removed under the action section of the active medications, it will appear in the inactive medications portion of this. And then, like Paul was mentioning, there is the capability of you actually importing medication history. And that's what that medication history portion of it is for. All right, so how do we prepare a prescription? So the button up here, the Add Prescription button is what I'm clicking on, and it literally takes you through the simple steps that you can go through. I'm actually going to take you through actually saving a favorite here. So what I'm typing in is amoxicillin. I'm going to say that we need a capsule for this. And the next step is to select our desired strength. So here I'm going to put in 500 milligrams. And then the final step is for us to add in our details. So the effective date is usually for the current day. And then the patient directions, like take 4 tabs, 1 hour prior to appointment. And then your dispense unit here, as well as the dispense number. And then whether we need any refills, I'm going to put 1 and any other details. What I do want to hone in on, and I'll bring this up a little bit here, is the Save as Favorite portion, and that's this gray star that when you click on it, turns orange. And so in that fashion, once you actually click on the Save Prescription, it will allow you to actually name this. I'm going to put amoxicillin 500 milligrams pre-med. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK here. And so there is a status up here towards the far top left corner that turns green in the event that something successfully happened. Usually if there's something red, then that means that that's bad. So that leads me to my next point, which is the drug-to-drug or drug allergy interaction check that I was earlier. So cephalosporin is actually a derivative of penicillin. So obviously, we can't give that a filler we're trying to give, and so it very clearly tells you that. In addition to the right, a dental alert section, and this is what Paul was mentioning in monographs and the details. I'm going to very quickly bring that over here. See what it is. So this window here that I'm bringing over is what that dental alerts would actually open up to. So because this patient's already taking codeine, I can go ahead and enter in like amoxicillin or something, and then, or clindamycin in this case, if you need to change it, they're allergic. And you can go ahead and see any type of interactions between these two drugs if needed. All right, so what should we do with this amoxicillin? It's very easy to change this. This pending medications box will show once you've already prepared it. It's a summary of what you prepared. And towards the far right, you do have an action drop down where you can click on edit. And so from edit, what we want to do is actually change up here this to clindamycin. And so when I click on that, it allows us to also see our favorites, which actually also populated earlier, if you did notice that. I'm going to click on clindamycin. And that then replaces whatever I had, and I'm going to click on today for the effective date, and then I'm going to click on Save Prescription. And so now we no longer have that that drug-to-drug allergy alert, which is great. Again, this is a pending medications window that generates. It's always a good idea for you to ascertain that everything in here is good and that you're sending it to the appropriate pharmacy. If you need to change it, the actions are where you could do that, as well as the Change Pharmacy button here. So let me bring us back to the login portion. Doctor is the only one who's able to see this approve and send and approve and print. I know we did have a question earlier about, not knowing what pharmacy you need that patient prefers. You can actually approve and print this one. But since we're talking about electronic submission here, approve and send, again, is only visible to the doctor and if allowable in whatever state you're practicing in for your prescribing agent. And I'll go over that in a quick bit here. So if everything looks good, you'll go ahead and check on that box and click on approve and send. And you do have a PIN prompt. So again, this is part of the identity proofing portion, making sure that only doctor is the one who's going to actually transmit this. So that's another way to think about it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on submit. Again, we have a green prompt up here towards the left corner. And what that does is it adds to the active medication list over here. And it tells us all of this information, the pharmacy it was sent to, the prescriber. If we click on the clindamycin, it'll bring up the lexicon with the monograph, the information about that. And more importantly, it'll show us the status here. So if I hover over this, it does give you the status, which is ERX sent. All right, so I do want to go ahead and close out of here and show you how that actually integrates with PracticeWeb. So I have a particular chart view for medical history, and so here, notice how it did carry that over from DoseSpot into the progress notes for PracticeWeb here, which I think is phenomenal. I just love that feature, as well as other things. So if you look on the bottom left corner, we do have cetirizine added in here as well. And again, remember that was done from actually DoseSpot's window, and it carried over. So in that sense, I think it's awesome, among other things. All right, so I'm going to go through the next scenario here, and it's for a prescribing agent. So this is when a prescribing agent prepares and transmits limited prescriptions, like a chlorhexidine mouth rinse. So the scenario is a doctor is too busy with a crown prep, and the hygienist needs to prescribe, again, that post-op chlorhexidine mouth rinse because the patient's like, I need to go, and you want to walk them out ASAP. So essentially, a prescribing agent is usually going to be your hygienist. And again, there's only 7 states that actually allow prescriptive authority to some degree. And again, it's only limited non-controlled substances. And we're going to use the exact same steps I elaborated on for an actual doctor, except there is no PIN prompt. It's going to let you just send that. Just a really quick note here, anytime that the hygienist or the prescribing agent logs in and they want to try to send a controlled substance, it will literally tell them, hey, you don't have the authority to do this. So if you're wondering about that, that's what the reaction would be. So again, the 7 states are listed here. Just like what Neel referenced earlier, there is, again, a certain degree of prescriptive authority, whether it's direct access or requiring general supervision. And again, not legal advice. Make sure that you're checking with your state dental board about what kind of authority your hygienists have, or even if prescribing agents are allowed. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and take us to the most common scenario, using a proxy user to prepare a prescription. In this case, it's going to be a controlled substance. So a proxy user is usually your dental assistant. It could also be your hygienist if they don't allow prescribing agents in your state. And so under the context where doctor is still tied up with a root canal prep, and another patient actually contacts them and needs a stronger pain medication for an extraction, this is what that would be useful for. So due to DEA regulations, there is, again, that two-factor authentication, which is number 1, your PIN, and then number 2, it's going to be a 6-digit passcode. And let me just show you, again, a little breakdown of that. So your PIN gets generated when you do the identity proofing. And we also set up some second factor to do identity proofing, which is essentially either the Duo mobile app, which is what this guy is, or you can order a hardware token, and that's what that guy is. And so usually this passcode or TFA code is going to be 6 digits, and it is different every time that you transmit, which I'll show you in a bit here. So let me take you through prescribing as a proxy user. Again, I'm going to log off. We want to do the LSCL step, so logging in as the appropriate user, which is my proxy user here. Then I'm going to select my patient, and I'm going to go under the appointment section and click on Cameron's appointment. All right, and then we can go into the family module where we can check, again, that the first, last name, the complete address, a number is on file, as well as a birth date. And then lastly, we can launch DoseSpot. And notice how I did not have that orange there any longer. So again, this proxy user has limited access. And again, that's the importance of making sure that you're logging in as the appropriate user. As a proxy user, for anybody that is, or any other providers that are signed up with DoseSpot to actually transmit, it will ask them to select that provider. In this case, we'll do so for Dr. Paul. I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And so, like Paul mentioned, there is an NA or X score that you see here. It was already visible. And this is essentially the likelihood of that patient abusing, narcotics. And what it does is it pulls all the information from the prescription monitoring program states and in this case we have the 2. You can click on any one of these to show an elaboration of what the findings are. You also have a report that you can access, which I'll bring over here, and this allows you to see other details and resources and all of that. So that's what the NARX score is useful for. It's to help you make sure that we're following those guidelines for prescription drug monitoring. Okay, so I'm going to use the same steps, add prescription here towards the top right. And here, because we already have codeine, I'm going to select that under my favorites here. And so it's really easy, again, to use this. I'm going to put in an effective date of the current day, which is today, and I'll click on Save Prescription. And we now see the pending medication here. And notice, again, we do not have any approve in pen or any approve in print. So if, doctor, you realize that, hey, I don't have these buttons, why not? You want to make sure that you're logged in as the appropriate user again. So I can't stress that enough. We get a lot of calls about that. So again, make sure you're doing the L or logging in portion as part of the LSCL step. Okay. All right. So now that we have that prepared, let's say doctor now is available to review and send that. Again, I'm going to go ahead and log off. And I'm logging in as doctor here, so Paul Doctor, and click OK. And then we'll be able to select the patient. We don't have to do the C portion of check because DoseSpot actually won't even launch if you don't have the appropriate patient information in there. And so the reason why I actually mentioned that and stressed that point. And notice we do have, again, that orange flag up here towards the top left. So it does have a 3 there. And so if I click on that, it tells us that there are 3 pending prescriptions. You can also see refill requests and transaction errors and even refresh. But the point here I want to make is the pending prescription section. So if I click on that, I can see everything that needs my attention as a doctor. So if I use this plus sign over here, I can see all the patients that had things entered in. Here we do have Cameron for today, and it was entered in by our Proxy user, and we can view at this point. Before I go into that, I just want to very quickly mention that your reports, if you were looking for any type of prescription reports like EPCS audit trails, when the actions taken on specific medications and all of that, you can access that using this blue link right here, which I'll click on really quickly. And that'll allow you to see all of that. And so here's your report. And again, you have these various ones. I'm going to do all upsetting transmissions. You can also export CSV or PDF, or even just view it directly from this interface. And that's, again, this blue link here. So I'm going to go back into the provider notifications now and expand this. And now we can go into Cameron's record here by clicking on View. And this very, very familiar window here. And again, because we are a doctor, we will see these orange buttons here. Now, because this is a controlled substance, again, the two-factor authentication, your PIN, that's the first factor. The second one is going to be the actual 6-digit code that you would get from that dual mobile app on your mobile device, or you can choose to use a hardware token. In any event, you would still click on the appropriate medication. Here we see that this is the summary. Everything looks good. It was prepared by a Proxy user for me. And again, this is the pharmacy it's going to send to. So we're going to click on Approve and Send. And notice how there's a lot more detail in this one compared to a non-controlled substance. It does give you a reiteration of like the prescriber information. We also have our information for our patient. And more importantly, this is, because this patient is in Kansas, the link that you as a doctor or as a clinician can click on so that you can log in to your appropriate state prescription monitoring program. And that's what you see here for Kansas. So it allows you to see that login page. You can log in and do whatever your dental board states you need to do. When you're ready to sign, you just click on that Ready to Sign checkbox, and it does open up that two-factor authentication stuff. So again, the first is your PIN, and then on your mobile device, which is the most common, and I'm going to show you mine, I'm going to open up my Duo, and I see my code, and it's going to be 874 394, and I'm going to click on sign and send. And we have a green up here saying that it was approved and successfully queued for transmission. And so you can also now see that in the active medication section right over here. And again, you can click on the status and hover over it to see what kind of status it's in. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and now show you scenario 4. So scenario 4 here is actually using the dentist portal. So let me preface this by saying that doctor is doing post-op calls over the weekend and the patient discloses that they forgot to pick up their prescription mouth rinse from the dental office before leaving. Doctor can actually prescribe this medication again through the dentist portal or any pain medication. And if you have the patient portal set up with that patient, send a secure message indicating, hey, I sent this, so go ahead and check with your pharmacy. And so that's what I'm going to take you through right now. So when you are at home, you can use your tablet, you can use your computer, you can use your laptop, you can use your phone, any web browser to log into the dentist portal, and that one is specifically through Practice Web. And so that's what you see on your screen here. And I'm going to log in this provider. And what happens is the next window that generates is your main menu. So over here, I'm going to click on Search Patient. And then I'm going to search for my patient who has this post-op and needs that mouth rinse. I'm going to click on Search. And this is the search result. And this is the information particular to this patient. So we have more details in here where we can actually see the vitals for that patient had it been somebody that's under 18. We can go back and at this point look at the prescriptions section. And it will also carry over a summary of whatever prescriptions have been already submitted for this person, as well as any current medications, allergies, and problems as well. And the open ePrescribing portal then launches DoseSpot, and it'll take you through that that familiar window that you're used to seeing. So it should open up essentially that usual user interface. Okay, and so the takeaways here I do want to mention are the following. So let me just grab that back here. So only doctor is capable of actually transmitting. So for ERX or basic prescriptions, it only prompts the doctor for their PIN. And for controlled substance prescribing, it does do that two-factor authentication or TFA, the PIN, as well as, again, that Duo mobile app, either that or the hardware token that you'll order. And again, the prescribing agent does, if it is permissible in your state, have the authority to do that as well. It's only for basic prescriptions, though, none of the controlled stuff. And finally, I do want to mention that any user that is registered for DoseSpot can prepare. And so we discussed those 3 users. So again, doctor, obviously, prescribing agent, and then a proxy user. And that proxy user, again, only has the ability to prepare. And the login, again, I can't stress the importance of that, is what controls what access you have in the DoseSpot interface. All right, so now that I've shown you how DoseSpot electronic prescribing works, I'm going to turn it over now to Neel so that he can discuss.
Geraldine, just stay on your screen for a sec. We do want to answer some questions here. I think I can probably handle most of them, but just in case we want to show something on your side. So some questions, I think some of them were answered already, but one question I'm curious about, which maybe you or Paul can answer, but how quickly does the pharmacy get the prescription and how soon can the patient actually get the prescription? Do you or Paul know the answer to that?
Paul, I'm going to hand that off to you because that's more DoseSpot programming.
No problem. So typically, once you send the prescription, most commercial pharmacies like Walgreens, CVS, things like that, they typically get the transmission within a couple minutes, if not less than that. However, obviously, once the patient gets there, it'll depend on when the pharmacy is ready. But the prescription is transferred very quickly, and even some of the smaller mom and pop locations typically get the prescription very quickly and can fill that within a few minutes.
Great. Good question. So next question is, and I think we answered this with the dentist portal, but if you're out of the office, how do you do the prescription? And then related to that, someone asked, if the main server is turned off in the office, can they still use the dentist portal? So the answer to the second question is yes, you can use it even if your server is turned off. If you're out of office, as Geraldine just showed, the fourth scenario, you have an after-hours care call that you're making, or you get an emergency call and they need some prescription. You can do it from your phone, your smartphone, or your tablet, or your computer, and do it through the dentist portal. The other one question here was, I think, answered regarding the paper prescription. So if they don't know what pharmacy they're going to go to, can you print and do that? So Geraldine showed that button. Now, I'm not sure if that would comply with the legal requirements in every state, because I think, Geraldine, am I right that in those states where it's required to do it electronically, you couldn't print it at that point, right? That's the whole point of the legal requirement?
Correct. And so, again, this is not like official legal advice, but per my experience with other clinicians, usually the only time you would print something is if the electronic prescribing isn't working. So that's the situation.
Yeah.
And if you,
Perfect. The other question was prescribing for fluoride toothpaste antibiotics. The answer is yes. Anything that can be prescribed through this service. And then another last question I see. Well, two questions. Can the doctor log in from any network computer to confirm and send ERX? The answer is yes. So any workstation, the server, whatever computer you're on, that's part of that network in your office. You can do this through there. And then last one was, will out-of-office prescriptions show up on the patient's chart notes? So that's one piece that we are actually just right now adding that feature, so that if you do it from the dentist portal, it'll write back to the patient's chart in Practice Web. So currently you will need to remember that prescription, enter it when you get in the office, but we are very soon to releasing that feature where it can write back to automatically to Practice Web. I saw another one come in here. Question, can a hygienist approve an ERX for the mouthwashes or toothpaste? So Geraldine, I think you answered that a little earlier, but do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so again, this is dictated by whether your state actually allows a prescribing agent, and they also usually tell you what the prescribing agent can prescribe. And again, it's usually a non-controlled. So if your state does allow mouthwashes or prescription toothpaste to be transmitted, absolutely. But again, the disclaimer here is just check with your state regulations.
It should be pretty easy to figure it out with your state board, but we will give our current information to you, but don't only rely on that because it's not legal advice. Does Practice Web have dentist portal and ERX? Yes. So the great thing about ERX is that it's integrated. Dentist portal, I was going to say that it's included in your support. It's not an extra charge. So you already have dentist portal if you're on support. If you don't have it set up, definitely give us a call and we'll get it set up for you very quickly. But it's not only great for ePrescribing, but also for checking your patient records, checking your schedule, and doing a lot of other things on there. So those are all the questions I see right now. I did want to mention that Geraldine gave a very detailed explanation and went through all the different scenarios. So that's what the type of great training you'll get when you get set up. But do know that it's much quicker than what we just showed you, because we were going through every detail, line by line. So when you're actually doing it, it's going to be click, 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 and you're done pretty much. So yeah, I will take over now, and I just wanted to cover a few more things and close out the webinar here. ePrescribing, we have a great rate right now, $39 a month per provider. So if you have multiple locations, it's the same. You're not going to pay extra. So each provider will pay a maximum of $39 a month. There's a setup fee. Total is $299, but it's a one-time setup fee, and that allows us to do your identity proofing and get everything set up for you. But that's the amount, and so it's low price. We are going to be raising this next month, so do get in early if you can. It's going to go to $49. It's still a great rate, but it's going to go to $49 next month, and our regular is $78, so it's still a great offer whether you do it now or next month. But yeah, if you want to save a little bit extra, the next couple of days are great for you to sign up. And then if you're not on support, you do need to be on the latest version and on support to use ePrescribing, but we have a very low rate. And with support, you not only get the ability to do ePrescribing, but you also get upgrades, which we're coming out with 21.1 in just a week or two here. So it has some great new features, which we'll tell you about. So you get your regular upgrades, you get technical support, you get the dentist portal, patient portal, practice analyzer tool for your analytics to look at how your practice is doing from a production standpoint, etc., and a few other services. So support is great to have. That's like the lifeline of your software. Always be on support, and then add a service like ePrescribing as you need it. So those are the special offers we have for the end of the month, until the end of the month. And then if you want to sign up, even without calling us, you can just simply go to our pricing page on our website, practiceweb.com, practice-web.com, and then go scroll down in the Smart Tools section. There's a big red button. You can't miss it. And that's the form to fill out to sign up for ERX. So if you're already on support, just go there and fill it out. You don't have to even contact us. We'll get in touch with you after we see that. But you can always call us. We're here to help you. So you've gotten all the information now. You can comply with the law, get the benefits. If you need help, you have questions, you want to learn more, contact our sales team at 800-845-9379, option 1. Or, sorry, that's the support. You can contact us there too, but it's sales@practice-web.com for sales. So yes, reach out to us. And last thing I want to say is like I said at the very beginning, we have great content. And so follow us on social media. Definitely subscribe to our YouTube page, but also on LinkedIn or on Twitter. We have a great blog on our website that has amazing articles you should be reading about to help your practice thrive, and on Facebook. So with that, I want to thank Geraldine for demoing ERX to us. I want to thank Paul from DoseSpot for giving us some great information about DoseSpot, and the rest of the team at DoseSpot that helped us out putting this together, as well as Jen, our marketing manager at PracticeWeb. So thank you, everyone, and look out for more information on this, and reach out to us if you have any questions. Next month, we'll have another great webinar to help your practice thrive. Thanks a lot, everyone, for your valuable time, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.